Good morning and welcome to this January 21st regular meeting of the San Francisco Ethics Commission. This meeting is being held by teleconference per the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20 and the 12th supplement to the mayoral proclamation declaring the existence of a local emergency dated February 25th, 2020. Before we proceed further, I'd like to ask the Commission staff member, Ronald Contreras, who is acting as our moderator today, to explain some procedures for today's remote meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The minutes of this meeting will reflect that due to the COVID-19 health emergency and to protect Commission members, city employees, and the public, the meeting rooms at City Hall are closed. However, Commission members and staff will be participating in today's meeting remotely. This precaution is taken pursuant to the various local, state, and federal orders, declarations, and directives. Commission members will attend the meeting through video conference and participate in the meeting to the same extent as if they were physically present. Please note that today's meeting is being live cablecast on SFGov TV and streamed live online at sfgovtv.org/ethicslive. Once again, streamed live online at sfgovtv.org/ethicslive. Public comment will be available on each item on this agenda. Each member of the public will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Comments or opportunities to speak during the public comment period are available via phone call by calling 1-415-655-0001. Again, the phone number is 1-415-655-0001. Access code is 2481-738-3084. Again, access code 2481-738-3084, followed by the pound sign. Then press pound again to join as an attendee. You'll hear a beep when you are connected to the meeting. You will be automatically muted and in listening mode only. When your item of interest comes up, dial *3 to raise your hand and to be added to the public comment line. You will then hear, "You have raised your hand to ask a question. Please wait until the host calls on you." The line will be silent as you wait your turn to speak. Ensure that you're in a quiet location. Before you speak, mute the sound of any equipment around you, including television, radio, or computer. It is especially important that you mute your computer if you are watching via the web link to prevent feedback and echo when you speak. When the system message says your line has been unmuted, this is your turn to speak. You will hear staff say, "Welcome, caller." We encourage you to state your name clearly. As soon as you begin speaking, you will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. If you've changed your mind and wish to withdraw yourself from public comment line, press *3 again. You will hear the system say, "You have lowered your hand." Once your 3 minutes has expired, staff will thank you and mute you. You will hear, "Your line has been muted." Attendees who wish to speak during other public comment periods may stay on the line and listen for the next public comment opportunity and should raise their hands to enter the public comment line by pressing *3 when their next item of interest comes up. Public comment may also be submitted in writing and will be shared with the Commission after this meeting has concluded and will be included as part of the official meeting file. Written comments should be sent to ethics.commission@sfgov.org. Once again, written comments should be sent to ethics.commission@sfgov.org. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, moderator. So with that, I'll call the meeting to order. Let's call agenda item number 1, which is Commission roll call.
Commissioners, please unmute your microphone so that you can verbally state you're present at today's meeting after your name is called.
Unknown caller.
Commissioner Bell.
Present.
Commissioner Bush.
Present.
Commissioner Chu.
Present.
Commissioner Finlev.
Present.
Chair Lee.
Present.
Madam Chair, with 5 members present and accounted for, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to agenda item number 2, which is public comment on matters appearing or not appearing on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Ethics Commission is now receiving public comment on agenda item 2 remotely in this meeting. Each member of the public will have up to 3 minutes to provide public comment. If you joined this meeting earlier to listen to the proceedings, now is the time to get in line to speak. If you have not already done so, please press *3. It is important that you press *3 only once to enter the queue, as pressing it again will move you out of the public comment line and back into listening mode. Once you are in the queue and standing by, the system will prompt you when it's your turn to speak. So it's important that you call from a quiet location. Please address your comment to the commission as a whole and not to individual members. Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are any callers in the queue. Stand by. If you have just joined this meeting, we are currently on agenda item 2, public comment on matters appearing or not appearing on the agenda. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You'll hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. Stand by. Madam Chair, we have no callers in the queue.
Okay, thank you. Today's agenda includes a proposed closed session item under agenda item number 3 to hold a conference with the city's Department of Human Resources negotiator regarding labor negotiations. This item has been scheduled for the commission's discussion and possible action. So fellow commissioners, stemming from our regular meeting last week, January 14th discussion regarding potential ethics and gift law changes we are considering. We invite Ardis Graham, Department of Human Resources Employee Relations Director, and Carol Isen, the city's Human Resources Director, to be with us today for this closed session item. The anticipated issue under negotiation is the status of the meet and confer with the employee organization, San Francisco Municipal Executives Association, regarding the Ethics Commission's proposed June 2022 ballot measure and regulation amendments. For the purpose of this item today, there are 4 steps involved. First step, under item 3A, we will receive public comment on all matters pertaining to agenda item number 3, including whether to meet in closed session. Second, we will then vote on whether to meet in closed session under California Government Code, Section 54957.6, and the Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.10, subsection E, to discuss labor negotiations. This will be an action item. Third, if a closed session is held, the commission will initiate that closed session meeting to meet with the labor negotiators, and following that closed session, we will then reconvene in open session. Fourth, pursuant to the Brown Act Section 54957.1 and Sunshine Ordinance Section 67-0.12, and as shown under agenda item, we will discuss and vote on the motion regarding whether or not to disclose any action taken or discussions held in closed session regarding the labor negotiations. So does any commissioners have any questions about today's process? I don't see any hands raised. Okay, then before we proceed, I want to ask Deputy City Attorney Shen, is there anything else that you may want to add about the Commission's closed session process?
Chair Lee, thank you very much. Deputy City Attorney Andrew Shen. 2 very brief comments. Obviously, once we go into a closed session, those discussions will be confidential to respect the labor negotiation process, as DHR explained at our last meeting. I do hope that the commissioners will respect that expectation of confidentiality. And then secondly, I imagine the next order of business to take public comment on agenda item 3 pursuant to item 3A. Thank you very much, Chair Lee.
Thank you, City Attorney Shen. Now let's proceed to public comment, please, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Ethics Commission is now receiving public comment on Agenda Item 3 remotely in this meeting. Each member of the public will have up to 3 minutes to provide public comment. If you joined the meeting early to listen to the proceedings, now is the time to get in line to speak. If you have not already done so, please press *3. It's important that you press *3 only once to enter the queue, so pressing it again will move you out of the public comment line and back into listening mode. Once you are in the queue and standing by, the system will prompt you when it's your turn to speak, so it's important that you call from a quiet location. Please address your comment to the Commission as a whole and not to individual members. Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are any callers in the queue. Stand by.
And I just want to remind the public that the public comment is on agenda item number 3 on matters pertaining to this item, which includes whether to hold a closed session.
If you have just joined this meeting, we're currently on Agenda Item 3, public comment on all matters pertaining to Agenda Item 3, including whether to meet in closed session. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You'll hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. Stand by. Madam Chair, there are no callers in the queue.
Okay, thank you. Then we will proceed to action under item number 3B, whether to meet in closed session under California Government Code Section 54957.6 and the Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.10, subsection E, to discuss labor negotiations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Moved by Commissioner Finlev.
okay, and seconded by Commissioner Chu. Roll call, please.
A motion has been made and seconded to proceed into closed session. I will now call the roll. Commissioner Bush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Chair Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Bell, Commissioner
Aye.
Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner Finlev.
Aye.
With 5 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes opposed, the motion is approved unanimously.
Okay, thank you, moderator. And we will now move to closed session and for our viewing public, an on-screen notice stating the commission is meeting in closed session while remain on for the duration of our closed session. The audio and visuals will resume live once we reconvene in open session. And we thank you for your patience and continued engagement. So now we are in closed session. So moderator, can you make sure that we are not online before we start our closed session?
Yes, and as a reminder, you will
SF Gov TV, San Francisco Government Television. 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 SF Gov TV, San Francisco Government Television.
We are now back on open session for the January 26th Ethics Commission meeting. I want to first thank the members of the public for your patience and continued engagement as we now resume our open session meeting today. Commissioners, do I have a motion on whether or not to disclose any action taken or discussions held in closed session?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Bell. I'll second. Roll call, please.
Chair, just a question. I think you asked whether there's a motion to disclose or not to disclose. Let's clarify what the motion is.
Okay. Commissioner Bell, you want to clarify your motion? Was it to disclose or not to disclose?
My motion is for us to not disclose.
Okay, so the motion is to not disclose any action taken or discussion held in closed session. Do we have a roll call?
On the motion to not disclose closed session deliberations, I will now call the roll. Commissioner Bush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Chair Lee,
Aye.
Chair Finlev,
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
With 5 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes opposed, the motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you. Now let's proceed to item number 4, which is continued discussion and possible action on proposal regarding a possible June 2022 ballot measure and regulation amendments to enact recommendations contained in report on gift laws Part A, gifts to individuals dated August 2nd, 2021, report on gift laws Part B, gifts to city departments dated September 29, 2021, and report on strengthening basic ethics provision dated December 6, 2021. Maybe before we ask Mr. Ford for his update presentation, would the commissioners no, let's go ahead with Mr. Ford's presentation first.
Yes, Shirley, I can speak to that for Mr. Ford and policy team.
Oh, okay. Mr. Canning.
Yeah. Let's do a quick update on the past payments rule, which will be going into effect this Sunday. We learned yesterday that several supervisors have are taking steps to put amendments into via ballot measure that would deal with the past payments chapter. We just heard about this yesterday, so I haven't really done a thorough review, but it appears that it would do a couple of things that are different from the current chapter, including adding an amendment provision that includes approval by both the commission and the board for amendments, which is something that the commission advocated for, as well as also ensuring that when city contracts go before the board, those contractors would become interested parties for board members as well, which also seems like a positive change. But as I said, that just came public yesterday, so we'll circle back on that when there's more information. To this item, since the last meeting on Friday, staff is engaged with we've done outreach to the nonprofits and other members of the public who spoke at public comment last Friday, and have had several meetings with members of the nonprofit community and are still ongoing with those discussions and waiting to hear back on scheduling some more of those meetings. But the plan is to keep engaging with those folks, clarifying what the proposed reforms would do, and also discussing potential amendments with the nonprofit community and other members of the public. That's ongoing. And also this Wednesday, we published a FAQ document that went out via the interested persons list and the website, and was shared with the commission that we think speaks to several of the concerns that were raised at last week's meeting. And then, as discussed in the previous item, the meet and confer process is still ongoing, and no action is able to be taken today to move the measure forward at this point.
Okay. If there's no Commissioner Bush.
I want a clarification. Did you say that there are some provisions that are going into effect on Sunday?
Correct. From the vested payments legislation that was approved by the board in last month.
And they relate to what we're doing in that they are a subset of our issues?
No, they would not part of the current ballot measure. That was more of a general policy update of what had happened yesterday related to the vested payments chapter. It does tie into this item in that one of the elements of this ballot measure was going to be either adding an amendment provision to the vested payments chapter or moving the vested payments rules into Chapter 2, which would have them be covered under the amendment provisions of requiring supermajorities of both the board and the Ethics Commission to make amendments. And that piece is now in this ballot measure being proposed by the Board of Supervisors. So that would be something that would not need to potentially be added to this measure being considered now.
Thank you.
Commissioner Finlap.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Canning, I think you mentioned that staff has engaged with the nonprofits and other public commentators from prior meetings. And I think you said that those conversations are ongoing. Given that, does staff plan at a future meeting to update the commissioners on the details of that back and forth, what the concerns may be, and the staff's response to those concerns?
Yes, I think at a future meeting that would be appropriate to, give an update of those concerns and see what potential recommendations came out of those meetings.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, Commissioner Bell.
Thank you, Chair Lee. I just wanted to commend the staff on the quick turnaround of the frequently asked questions, the FAQs. After last meetings, I thought it was a really helpful document and done very quickly in response to the questions that were raised. So I just wanted to commend the staff on getting that document out. It answers a lot of questions, so well done.
I echo that. If there's no other comments from the commissioners, let's open up for public comments, please, moderator.
Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item 4, continued discussion and possible action on proposals regarding a possible June 2022 ballot measure and regulation amendments to enact recommendations contained in Reports on Gift Laws, Part A, Gifts to Individuals, dated August 2nd, 2021. Reports on Gift Laws, Part B, Gifts to City Departments, dated September 29th, 2021. And Report on Strengthening Basic Ethic Provisions, dated December 6th, 2021. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by. Madam Chair, we have a caller in the queue. Please stand by. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Debbie Lerman from the Human Services Network. First, I want to thank the commission and the commission staff for the outreach and the opportunity to go over our concerns. We've submitted a written memo that outlines our perspective on the measure and recommends several amendments. And we appreciate the urgency and the commitment to placing needed reforms on the ballot, but the deadline to do so is still 6 weeks away. And so we are happy to hear that the final decision will be deferred until you've had an opportunity to review the comments from department heads and the public. Most important, this measure should protect activities that are beneficial to the city as well as our nonprofits by allowing free admission to nonprofit fundraisers. The proposed language narrowly allows free admission if it's necessary to an official's city duties. We believe that provision should clarify that those duties include support for the partnership, sustainability, and the private fundraising activities of the nonprofits that departments rely on for vital city services to residents. Secondly, the definition of restricted source should exclude uncompensated nonprofit board members. There are thousands of altruistic volunteer community leaders who would be exposed to criminal and civil liability, even for small violations of a law that they may not even be aware of. Third, the definition includes vague language that would sweep up thousands of people who attempt to influence legislative or administrative action, even for grassroots public policy activity like signing petitions or going to rallies, and even if the public official is unaware of the attempt. The language should mirror the interested party definition in the behested contributions ordinance. We also urge you to focus this measure more tightly on actions that carry a real threat of corruptive influence rather than diluting the efficacy of enforcement by including gifts of really nominal value. This includes items like honorary plaques or small value gifts of hospitality like food or a t-shirt. There are additional comments in our memo to the commission. We thank you for your work on this and for your consideration of our comments.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you,
Lane.
caller. Please stand by. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Okay. This is Jack Thomas. I'm calling from Friends of Alamany Farm. I'm down in Southeast San Francisco on the farm right now. Yeah, I had just a few concerns about the level at which this proposal is being applied. First of all, it seems to me worrisome that the language is so broad that it will actually be hard to implement. Like I'm wondering what who will be responsible for monitoring every potential infraction. It kind of makes me think that city employees are going to be inadvertently incriminating themselves or inadvertently putting themselves at risk of like excessive fines, and that it will dilute the city's ability to actually monitor real ethical compromise. And then not only that, but if everybody is potentially committing, you know, seemingly small infractions, like little transactions that happen every day as a matter of being part of a community, that the application might be, it might not be evenly applied. Like it gives us grounds to choose whom we decide to mete out consequences to and who to overlook. So I worry about like bias in how the rules are applied. And then not only that, on this farm, I work pretty closely with a few different departments within the city of San Francisco. And we host part of how this farm works and provides, thousands of pounds of food to the community every year is by building strong community relationships with the people that eat our food, which is made possible by strong community relationships with the city. We rely on friendly relations with folks at PUC and RPD, and their involvement in our programming on site not only makes them capable of monitoring what's going on here and helping us meet our needs, but it also means that their indirect relationship with the folks that need their services.
Your 3 minutes has expired.
Oh, okay. Thanks very much, y'all. I really appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Please stand by. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now. Welcome, caller.
Hi, my name is Vinay Patel, and I'm the Executive Director of the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center, and I'm calling to voice my concern over the proposed ballot measure to amend the Capital and Governmental Conduct Code. I've devoted over 20 years of my life fighting for equitable access to resources and for cultural equity for a BIPOC community. That would not have been done without the ability to have open dialogue with city departments and elected officials to tell the stories of how these inequitable practices can lead harm and pain to our communities. This ability to have open dialogue builds trust and has led to positive change. That openness also led for the community to have dialogue and brought people on opposite sides together. I've had the privilege of growing up in this wonderful country, and that privilege has given me the opportunity to speak about the challenges from my API community to those in positions of power to help them understand the struggles of our community by unequitable laws and practices. This proposed ballot measure can have serious impact on the BIPOC community's ability to have those conversations. This will become a barrier for BIPOC organizations, and especially organizations who are or serve English as second language persons. These individuals or organizations do not have the historical access or experience to navigate already complicated nature of working with government. Now, only organizations who have large and vast resources will have that ability to make those navigations, thus creating a possible unethical and inequitable situation. We as BIPOC communities need to have open dialogues without the fear of persecution. I urge you to rethink this measure and tailor to specifically to curtail actions that you think is a problem. We also, I personally and people from our community would like to lend a hand in our experience to help you in making these changes to this legislation, and we look forward to working together. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for the new FAQ as well, SF Ethics staff.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. I just have a question. If the commission staff were to hold an interested person Zoom call, virtual meeting, I would love to have your and Ms. Lehman's engagement to reach out to your nonprofit community colleagues so that we can hear more directly their concerns as well as their suggestions. I hope you can help the staff in putting this together. I think he left. Okay. Mr. Patel left. Okay, well, that suggestion is for Mr. Canning then. Okay. Any other callers? Unmute, please.
There are no further callers in the queue.
Okay. With no public comment, this public comment is closed. I just want to reiterate what I said earlier to Mr. Kenny. The written comments as well as the caller's comment from the nonprofit community is a great concern. And I hope that you will reach out to them, ask them to broaden the base and bring in any other interested members from the nonprofit community so that we can hear from them before the February meeting that we have to address the concerns.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a few comments about the proposal as well, if I may.
Okay, please.
Great, thank you very much. This is my second meeting as a commissioner. The first was just a week ago. So I appreciate that a lot of you have been at this for longer in terms of this ballot measure, but I've spent my time really getting up to speed, and I have some kind of details I'd like to discuss with my fellow commissioners to share my concerns and hopefully get some of your reactions to that. And some of them kind of overlap with some of the concerns we've heard from the public. Some of them are matters that I've seen based on having previously worked trying to enforce these laws and trying to interpret them. I have a filter where I see these in terms of how would it work in practice. So I have some concerns that I want to share with you, some reactions. I want to thank staff for discussing these with me at length as well. And I'd really like to get a response or back and forth from some of my fellow commissioners to the extent that you have reactions to anything I'm saying. So I'm going to talk about three kind of specific issues, and I'll try to make it very quick. One is the restricted source issue that we've been hearing about in public comment. One is the statements of incompatible activities, the advanced written determination process. And then finally, a proposal regarding the intermediaries of kind of money from outside sources. So I'll just quickly talk about all three. And again, I'd hopefully, if there's any response from the commissioners, I'd love to hear it. Starting with the intermediary issue, the proposed language regarding 3.216.6, this is the a proposal that states that no person may accept a payment with the agreement or understanding that the money will be used to benefit a city employee. Broadly, what this gets at is a situation where an outside person gives money to a nonprofit or to a friends of organization, and then later that money is spent on something that benefits city employees. And that would be illegal if it was done directly, but when it's done through this intermediary, that's being captured under this proposal. That's a very smart proposal. It makes a lot of sense. My only thought is that as written, the proposal only gets the receipt of money, not the expenditure of the money. So it would cover a situation where a city employee receives money from someone who's improperly trying to influence action, perhaps, bribery basically. But it wouldn't cover the situation where the city employee later spends that money, or any person for that matter. And the reason I raise this is that there may be a situation where the money is placed at some account for 6 months, and only once the money is spent is when the improper purpose decision is made. So I've suggested to staff that this be amended to cover the expenditure of the money, not just the receipt of the money. I think staff thought that made a lot of sense, and I would welcome them to chime in to the extent that I've inarticulately explained the issue. But the concept is basically to make sure the proposal captures the intended conduct, not just the receipt, but also the expenditure of money. So that's my first issue. And to the extent that wasn't clear, I'd be happy to clarify if any commissioners have questions about that. The second issue, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Finlay, so the receipt and expenditure, it wouldn't be receipt and, it would be and or expenditure, right? You wouldn't have to receive it and spend it. It's a simple receipt would be sufficient to trigger this provision as well. But it would also cover the situation of expenditure.
Exactly, it's disjunctive. And I guess to put a fine point on it, my concern is that when the money is received by whatever third party, it may not be known what the purpose is for. But 6 months later, when someone accesses it to spend it on something improper, we want to capture the expenditure. As written, it only captures the receipt, not the later expenditure. But you're right, it's disjunctive. It's either way, it's and or. Thank you, that's a great question, Commissioner Chu.
Can I just elaborate on that? We know that money is given to sister city committees, and then later that money is drawn down to pay for an official's trip someplace. which could be a year later. And it could be that they fly first class and stay in $500 a night hotels. So your proposal would be to cover the expenditure. And if you're covering the expenditure, at some point, you could put down guardrails on what's an allowable expenditure. Is that correct?
The first part where you're saying, that's right. It may be that the money's parked somewhere for a year and only later someone decides to spend it on something that enriches the official. I want to make sure we capture that later expenditure. In terms of the guardrails, I wasn't envisioning changing the regulations as currently written that define what is and is not a allowed expenditure. I'm not sure if that answers the question, Commissioner Bush.
Thank you. I'm not sure that we have clarification on what the guardrails are, though I understand the controller has some guidelines on it.
And the guardrails are important, but that's not specifically what I was looking at, but I appreciate your concern that those are important because that ends up kind of dictating what is and is not permitted. But I was just trying to make sure that we capture both the receipt and the expenditure.
I'm glad you are doing that. I'm in favor of it.
And then I'll move to the second issue I raised, unless any of the other commissioners have thoughts. So the second issue is currently each department has a statement of incompatible activities, which allows allows city employees to ask the department for an advanced written determination whether they're in fact allowed to do some conduct that would otherwise violate the statement of incompatible activities. Right now, one of the prohibited activities is statements under the jurisdiction of the department. And that's really broad in terms of what that means. Under current law, an employee can seek an advanced written determination to say, hey, I would like to do this thing, which is under my department's jurisdiction, but I'd like to be allowed to do it anyways. Under the proposal, there would no longer be a written determination process for that situation. That gives me some concerns because I think there are a lot of legitimate civic activities that city employees can be a part of by virtue of having expertise in a certain area. You know, folks who work at the Department of Parks and Rec know a lot about Parks and Rec issues. I don't want to curtail their ability to be active, to be civically engaged in activities that don't raise any concerns about self-dealing or corruption. So I think it's valuable to have a process where employees can get either waivers of that conflict, or alternatively, where we create a regulation that kind of clarifies that some activities, that staff determines are not at risk of creating undue relationships are permitted. Because I think city employees have a wealth of knowledge and expertise that the city benefits from, being able to use, whether through nonprofit groups or advocacy organizations. And I think as written, the prohibition is broad, which is good because there are a lot of relationships we want to avoid, but there may be some that are totally fine. So I think it's valuable to create a space for employees to be able to participate civilly in that way. And that could be through language that clarifies what is still permitted, or by maintaining the process of having a waiver for that particular conflict. So that's my thought on the second part. I'd love to hear if any commissioners have immediate feedback now or at a subsequent meeting. And then just wait 4 seconds to give
Commissioner
someone time.
Bell's hands up. Commissioner Bell, is your hands up?
No.
Did you? Okay,
it is
then
not.
Commissioner
Oh,
Chu.
I'm sorry, I did not lower it. Sorry.
Commissioner Chu.
Oh, thank you. I am a little foggy in my memory about the SIA process, the changes that we had contemplated, and so I'll reserve my comments. But I think that Commissioner Finlay raises a good point, and I'll review and come back and respond a little more intelligently next time.
Thank you, and thank you all my colleagues for indulging me. I understand that this is kind of in the weeds, but I think there are issues that I wanted to raise. And the final issue involves a restricted source, and I think aligns with what we've been hearing from the public commentators. Of course, a city contractor should not give gifts to a city employee with the expectation that they'll get some favorable governmental decision. So the restricted source rule is very important, but that transaction is already prohibited. My concern under the proposal is that it subjects non-city employees to criminal exposure potentially, or civil financial exposure for violating laws that they don't at all know about. And as written, the proposal has no training mechanism, so we'd be creating liability for a big group of folks who have no reason to know the law. That gives me a lot of concern. City employees are already bound by the law. Bribery is already illegal to the extent non-city employees are trying to bribe folks. So here I think we risk creating, again, liability over a group of folks who don't know the laws, have no reason to know the laws, and are unwittingly potentially becoming criminals. I was a city employee for 5 years. No one ever gave me anything of value, and I don't understand why it happens. But I know that a lot of private parties, nonprofits, contractors, do that regularly, not for nefarious purposes, but as a matter of practice. And I think before we criminalize that or subject it to civil penalties, I think we should really consider the effect of that, given that the underlying transaction is already prohibited. Those are my broad thoughts. I'd also welcome staff weighing in on these proposals. I've discussed it with them and I value their expertise, but I'd love them to weigh in to the extent they have responses, and of course also my fellow commissioners. Madam Chair, thank you for indulging me this time, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you for those excellent insights. Commissioner Bush?
In terms of non-city employees offering something of benefit, but not understanding that there are prohibitions on that kind of thing, I'm thinking about officers and entities that agree with a major developer that in exchange for supporting the development proposal before the city, that the developer will contribute to their organization. And that's current law. We currently, if you go onto the ethics page, you'll see major developers, and under that you will see contributions that they made to nonprofits, in exchange for which the nonprofit publicly supports the development project. So how would this affect that?
Commissioner, I think you raised a great point. I'm hoping staff can weigh in on that. I'm not as familiar with that as I hope they are. But that what you're mentioning sounds like a fertile area for problems. So hopefully staff can respond.
I think take it one step further, Commissioner, which is, what if, in addition to the organization receiving a benefit, a person receives a personal benefit along the way? For example, in the past, we've seen major corporations provide friends and family stock options to city officials. And at that time, the city attorney's opinion was that since the options were not exercised, they had zero value until they were exercised, which could come years later. But of course, being able to access and have control over a certain number of shares and then later on cash them out is itself a benefit. I'm basing that on real world situations, not on false ones.
Commissioner Bush, I'd like to educate myself more on that point, but I think under my the thought that I'm articulating is that whatever is prohibited now would still be prohibited. It's just that the liability wouldn't fall on the non-city folks who don't know about the laws. I think you're raising really important issues that may relate to other laws, but if staff has a response, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, Commissioner Van Loof, I'd be happy to just respond briefly to your comments overall. To your first point about the intermediaries issue in 3.216.6, yeah, as we've discussed, I think that would be a fine tweak to adjust that so that the both expenditure and the receipt are covered, and we can continue discussions with the city attorney's office on how to exactly phrase that. But that seems very reasonable. And then to the SIA AWD process, Commissioner Chu had I think requested a little bit more of a context there. So just as a review, currently there are AWDs, advanced written determinations, available for only a part of what's in the SIAs. So some elements, like the gift elements, are not subject to AWDs. The four elements, rules in AWDs that are in the SIAs that can get an AWD are those for excessive time demands, regular disqualifications, selective assistance, and as Commissioner Van Loof says, activities that are subject to the department's jurisdiction. And with the proposed measure, the AWD process would be maintained with the departments for time demands and regular disqualifications, as those really aren't ethics rules and are much more administrative things that can be handled within the department. And they would AWDs would no longer be available for selective assistance, which in our review of AWDs haven't found that that's a common thing to ask for, or haven't seen any that ask for that. And yeah, as for the activities subject to the department's jurisdiction, sorry, lost my thought here.
So, Mr. in essence, sorry, Chair Lee, if I may, the AWD process is preserved for a subset of activities that are probably most common, but the ones that were a little bit more problematic, because I believe we had some discussion about AWDs that were granted that touched on ethical concerns, and that subset of AWDs have been eliminated, but the AWD process has not been eliminated in its entirety. Is that right?
Correct. And to the point that Commissioner Van Loof is raising, yeah, I think we can definitely study this issue more, but I think the inclination would be to lean more towards carving out an exception to the general rule if there are certain civic duties or activities, volunteering with nonprofit boards or things like that want to make sure city employees can still do with entities that have business for their departments. I think that would probably be better to carve out via an exception instead of having a waiver process that would need to be administered to address those. And then, yeah, for the final issue raised regarding the restricted source rule, I think that's something that we can definitely circle back to in a future memo and study that more. It is definitely an item we can return to.
And Mr. Kenny, if you could also add on the restricted source rule, a part of your briefing, the training that you contemplate would be rolled out in order to educate people who would be affected, whether inside or outside of city employment, so that everyone will know what their obligations are. That would be helpful.
No more questions.
Chair Lee, may I just respond very quickly to one more thing?
Okay.
I wanted to, on the SIA, the Advanced Written Determination, sorry, that's a tongue twister. I just want to kind of give a more concrete example of what I'm thinking about. For example, someone who works at Park and Rec maybe wants to be on the Audubon Society. Now, I don't know whether that actually is under the jurisdiction, but it's just an example of an employee who may have expertise because of where they work, wanting to be involved in something civically. Under the proposed rule, they just wouldn't be able to do that if the activity is under the jurisdiction of the department, no matter how innocuous it is, no matter how remote any possibility of improper relationships are. That's why I think it's important to either have an exception, like Mr. Koenig said, or preserve the process for that. It's purely for those kind of activities that under the proposal are just blanket ban. There's no flexibility at all. And I'm just concerned that that eliminates a lot of innocuous, healthy activities without any kind of flexibility. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If there's no other comments, then since there's no action required, let's close this agenda item and let's move to agenda item number 5, which is presentation, public hearing, and possible action on Ethics Commission's budget priorities for fiscal year 2023-24. Director Powell.
Yes, thank you, Chair Lee, and thank you, Commissioners. Gayatri Takandil, our Deputy Director and Chief Operating Officer, is also with us at this meeting today. We have presented for you a brief overview of today's meeting, noting first for context that from an ordinance that was approved a couple of years ago, departments now are required to have 2 public hearings for different purposes in preparation of their annual budget submissions. As the memo that we've circulated under this item notes, all departments are required to submit their budget proposals to the Mayor's Budget Office on February 22nd of this year. The budget priorities and the discussions that departments are having technically cover fiscal year 23 that starts July 1st of this year and through fiscal year 24, a 2-year cycle. In fact, practically speaking, for most city departments, ours included, we have budgets that are submitted and considered and acted upon every year. So our focus will be talking about our fiscal year priorities that come up primarily in the coming year and how we are structuring ourselves to do that. So we do have a brief slide presentation that we shared with you. Just for some context on that, you saw in the memo that we distributed that the Mayor's Office distributed the budget priorities that the Mayor has identified for the city in December, and that they there's several items. Restoring vibrancy to San Francisco, including public safety, street conditions, recovery of the local economy in the wake of the particular pandemic that we're still living under, reprioritizing funding to improve core service delivery, which is something I think our office knows much about, having done a lot of that work over the last half decade or so, and accountability and equity in delivering program services and spending. And that's an area where I think our work very much aligns with what the Mayor has asked from city departments. As you saw also, the city is facing a surplus this year, an anticipated surplus of over $100 million. And as part of the annual budget instructions that the Mayor issued to departments, this year departments are not being asked to submit proposed cuts as we were last year and in every year, at least since I've been here for the past 6 years. So this is good news. One of the things the Mayor has also asked is for departments to retain their spending to current levels and to continue to provide services aligned with the goals that she identified for departments. So this meeting today is to provide an opportunity for you and for the public to primarily to weigh in on the budget priorities for the department. And then we will have another separate meeting at the regularly scheduled meeting on February the 11th to consider a more detailed specific budget proposal, which would then be submitted on the 22nd as required. So those are the 2 opportunities that the public has to provide feedback and comment on our budget process. Perhaps what I can do just very briefly, I know it's been a long morning, but I'm happy to just walk through the slides to provide you with some context for what we're looking at to give you a sense of what the priorities are that we've identified for a budget request. Happy to do that if that's of use to you, Commission. I see Commission Chair nodding. Would you like to proceed that way or just directly to questions?
I would like a presentation for the benefit of the public.
Great. And let me ask if I could have the moderator assist with, 1 moment, we'll get this screen up for you. Can I ask if you're able to see the,
Yes.
okay, thank you. So as an initial point, we wanted to provide a sense of overview of where we are allocating our current resources as an office. You'll recall that we, as of fiscal year 22, have 33 staff positions. We were fortunate to receive, through our budget request last year, 8 new positions, FTEs or full-time equivalencies, as we call them in city speak. But there are 33 staff positions that we have this year. We are still in the hiring process for 5 or so of those. But our overall operating, excuse me, our overall operating budget for this fiscal year is about $6.5 million. The pie chart on the right shows roughly how those staffing roles are distributed. And the reason we focus on staffing resources is because it is the proxy for and how we do our work. So you'll see that our legislative and policy affairs work represents, through the staffing levels we have allocated to that work, 6% of our expenditures, the Ethics at Work program, 12, and so forth. So when you take a look at this slide, for example, you see that combined with the outreach that we do on the policy and legislative front, the engagement and compliance work we do, as well as the Ethics at Work team that we're putting together, that's roughly just over 1/3 of our resources focused on helping to develop and then convey information about the laws and how they are implemented and how to comply with them in practice. Our audit division is about 12%, electronic disclosure and data analysis, which is our fancy term for helping us do all of our public disclosure work for the public, and creating the systems that enable people to comply with our filing requirements. That's about 12%. And then 1/4 of our staff are investigations and enforcement. So when you combine audits and investigations and enforcement, that itself is again over roughly 1/3 of our work. This is just a summary again of what the mayor's directions were to city departments, so I won't linger on here, but it is as I've discussed in the memo. We also provided a summary again from our charter-based duties that we have as a commission. So as a recap for how, when we look at our priorities for the coming year, we are doing what we can to fulfill these responsibilities in the best way possible, given the resources that we have. And so this is in terms of the ongoing departmental priorities that the commission has been operating under for the past several years, have, from our staff's perspective, continued to guide how we think about developing our approach for the coming fiscal year as we see it. Still continuing to work on strong laws that are implemented well, that we have timely and effective oversight for them so that the programs we have and that the public has supported are in fact operating and being impactful in practice. Clearly, through our work that we did in last year's budget and are continuing to do to put together our Ethics at Work team, in addition to our education and our engagement and compliance work, a focus on heightened awareness of the laws is absolutely essential to make sure that we can provide as many practical tools and substantive information in ways that is useful and meaningful to the end user or to the person who's subject to laws. We need to be focusing on essential outreach, and your comments in the last item discussed that, and so that's something that we're looking forward to continuing to prioritize, and making sure that our public disclosure to enhance understanding of what's available to participate as an informed person in government and campaigns, but also to help promote compliance. Those are things that we're also focused on. And then, of course, striving for excellence in our own continuous improvement throughout our operations and our programs. It's something that asks a lot of our office and asks a lot of you as we look through new programs, but we are clearly focused on wanting to make sure that, again, our programs and our operations are efficient and effective and that we're using our best resources to their best and highest use. So where this takes us in terms of several budget requests that we're looking at for this coming fiscal year that starts July 1st. We have several position-related requests. Again, our work is done through our staff. We don't have administrative overhead, so it's all through the people that do our work. So one of the things that we're looking at is that we know the work that we do on the public disclosure front, on the compliance front, it has over the past several years only increased year after year in terms of the work that's necessary, the demand for it, the success of it, and the complexity of it. So we are focused on ensuring that we have the positions that bring the right level of knowledge, skills, and abilities to enable us to do that work. One of the things that we believe is essential to helping provide continuity in our public disclosure functions will be through the reclassification of one existing position that we have. That would be, as you see on the column for FY23, a reclassification that would have $20,000 impact in FY23, and then would re-up that position on a 3-year limited term position, so it would require full funding in the following years. But this is essentially, it's a position that is, an existing position is expiring the end of June 30th, 2023. So we know that we need to make sure that we've got the right level of skill set and the position to help us keep those functions up and running as strongly as the demand for them requires. A separate area for a position-related request is similarly, we in the past year have an existing client support specialist position that has been helping us focus on getting support directly to filers to enable us to do the Form 700 e-filing launch, which occurred this past January. And that position it also expires at the end of June of 23. So we will be asking for a new position to start in that second year to retain those functions at our commission and really help create a dedicated client support services unit. Again, this is a sign of the times. We know that there are many technology-focused needs that our filers bring to the table. It's an opportunity not just to sort of say, here's how you log in, but to also then help inform and educate and engage folks about our laws so that that people can come back and ask and know that they can get reliable information from our office. So we're going to be looking at asking for a 3-year limited term position being funded, again, starting in FY24 after this position has expired. Separately, an area that you're familiar with is our policy work. One of the things that we did in creating a dedicated policy unit in 2017 was to ensure that we had at least a dedicated focus in the office to bring forward policy issues, assess the laws, bring forward recommendations for discussion like we've been having on really important public policy issues. That work has become increasingly complex, increasingly nuanced and elevated in terms of our outreach and the work that is demanded of that. It does require highly specialized legal and policy analysis research skills. So our view is that this position, both of the two positions we have not been adjusted since they were first created. We think that those are also essential to reclassify the positions so that they are classified at the next level up, bracketed up, because the level of the work demands it in our view. And that's something that we would want to see reclassified an existing senior policy analyst to be a legislative affairs manager and reclassify the existing policy analyst position to a senior policy analyst position. This is also consistent with approaches that we've taken throughout the department as we have created work over time, recognizing that we need to absolutely match work going forward with the level of skill and experience and that we know we're going to need to support over time with that expanded work. And then one other area we have is another area in our audit program. We have over time used existing positions that we previously had to recalibrate to enable us to hire a division manager. We have, as a result of that, lost one of the audit positions that the commission historically had when we had 4 auditors. So we know that the work in our audit division also has only grown over time, and we believe that creating again what we call an 1823 or a senior auditor position to work with the team is really going to be important to help strengthen the reach and the impact of the audit program, given the work that we have in front of us, lobbying audits, as well as the post-filing compliance reviews that we're starting. We know the Form 700 review process will be a start, but we also know that's not where it ends. There is much oversight work to be done, and we believe we're in a better position to make that work happen more fully and more timely if we have the full range of staff positions that will enable us to do that. We do also have some non-position related requests, and those are to, they sound probably really boring, but they are really, really essential to what we do. These enable us to have our core business systems funded. As you know, technology to keep our work going continues to have licensing fee increases and support, software support needs and maintenance cost upgrades. So making sure we have the tools and the technology to do our work is a given, and this budget request is related to that. One other area that we have non-position related requests in is for necessary support for our business functions in the way that we secure essential services from other city departments. So we pay the Department of Technology for software tools, DocuSign types of functions and other services. And then also we are seeking to have an arrangement that we establish with the Office of Contract Administration, because as we've discussed in previous commission meetings, it does take some specialty and some significant time for any department to issue and secure contractual arrangements for work that it may need done. We periodically have used auditing contracts with external organizations that we piggybacked on other departments for. We are no longer able to do that. So we want to have an Office of Contract Administration arrangement where we can secure services to help us do that. That's also related to some of our technology work as well. So looking to create a new arrangement there will cost some money as well for funding for technology and contracting services in the coming year. Lastly, we have an item that I just wanted to flag for you that doesn't have a budgetary impact, but it's again the way that we are trying to be as nimble as we can with the positions that we have to do the work that changes over time and that really needs more focus through sort of a direct, dedicated role that serves those needs. You may recall that last fall, our fines collection officer position was vacated. Our fines collection officer retired from city service. So this is a position that we've had available that we plan to repurpose to work with the executive team and payroll, but essentially with the deputy director and myself to be an operations and finance coordinator for us. And so that would consolidate a variety of things related to both finance, budgetary work, but also support operations across the department that are currently dispersed. We think we can handle them better and more effectively if we can consolidate them through the use of this vacant position. So things like in a new realigned role to assist with commission meeting support, communications, other related responsibilities to the work that the commission and we do together. Also with the commissioner onboarding, ongoing technical support, other sorts of functions related to budgeting activities and day-to-day financial activities that are supported right now by your executive team. We know this will be helpful and will free us up to make sure that we're able to be doing some of the work that we also need to be doing in that role that is not day-to-day financial or operations. We're planning to we are in the process of embedding the fines collection process incorporated into our streamlined administrative resolution program in the audit division. So we are not losing that service or that function. We are looking to make it as effective and as efficient as possible through that. So again, this is a kind of change that does not require a budgetary impact, but certainly will have operational improvements in our view. So we wanted to make sure that we are using all positions as we can. And then lastly, there's a slide that shows you what the overall request looks like based on what I've just described. There's an increase for FY23 that would be roughly 4.5% over our current allocated budget, growing to 11.5% in the second year. There's a slide that also is more detail here, but happy to answer any questions. It depicts visually how our staffing is laid out, how we would be proposing it. You can see the one position in red would be a new position, other positions that are reclassified noted in blue, and overall it would have 34 staff positions up in our annual budget. So we look forward to hearing from the public and the commission and others on this and other issues related to the budget and our priorities, and very much happy to answer any questions, either Gayatri or myself here to do that with you today.
Thank you, Director Pelham. Fellow commissioners, since this is an item to receive public comment on the budget priorities, I would suggest that we take public comments first before we ask questions or have any discussions around the budget. So if there's no opposition, let's go to public comment, please, moderator.
Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you've just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of Agenda Item 5. Presentation, public hearing, and possible action on Ethics Commission budget priorities for the fiscal year 2023 to 2024. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by. Madam Chair, there are no callers in the queue.
Okay, public comment is closed, so let's open up for our questions or discussions among ourselves. Commissioners? Commissioner Finlay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director Pelham. I just had a quick question. I see there are 4 positions for education and training. Assume those are not the 4 folks entrusted with educating the entire city workforce on the ethics laws. My guess is that Department of Human Resources also does some of that. So I'm just hoping you can explain kind of how our education folks, training folks, work with other departments to train our employees, city employees.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Finlay. The 4 positions that I described as ethics at work are the new positions that we got in last year's budget that we're working to fill currently. Those are designed to be a specialized unit that would be focused on very specific topical ethics-related issues, whether how to navigate issues ethically or new laws that we've adopted that take effect after the time that these folks are on board. That is in addition, however, to our engagement and compliance staff as well. So as currently we have staff that dedicated to the lobbying program, dedicated to the campaign finance program, and dedicated to our Form 700 or economic interest filing program. There's a lot of education and training that happens in that sort of capacity, as well as we reach out to individuals to let them know about their filing obligations, and as we provide materials to them to remind them of that, and then also provide training that is mandatory under the current law, such as for campaigns or for lobbyists and so forth. But in essence, yes, it's fair to say you may have just hit the nail on the head, which is that we have not had historically a dedicated unit to provide training, which we believe has been an issue and that we know we need to be addressing through new resources that we secured last year. We have worked with Department of Human Resources on training, for example, in the last round of city negotiations with the bargaining units. One of the bargaining units, the Municipal Executives Association, and the city agreed and included in the terms of the MOU that there is at least a 1 time per year live session that the City Ethics Commission and City Attorney provide directly to MEA members to help them understand a variety of ethics issues and to be a resource to them. So we have done that. I've done that with Deputy City Attorney Shen in prior years. That's a really helpful resource. It's only something that's done once. I think it's something that would be great to do much more regularly. We've been in conversation with the Department of Human Resources as well as about information that we think we as a city should be providing to new employees when they start. If you're a new employee to the city or a new appointee, where do you know and where do you hear about ethics issues that may affect you? And that's something that we've had some initial discussions about, and I think will be taking greater root when we have our folks on hand that can help us develop those materials. But that's kind of the range in which we've been doing it. It's been unfortunately rather ad hoc, and I think over the last year or so has become less so. And our hope is that with our new ethics and at work staff and the tools and resources to be able to support that you'll be seeing much more of that in a much more cohesive way. I don't know if does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Bush?
Thank you, Chair Lee. My questions are a little scattered because I didn't take detailed notes as Director Pelham went through a fairly extensive overview of our budget. But so let me just hit scattershot questions rather than sounding informed and coordinated. The contract for additional work by the technical offices, are those contracts ones that can be contracted out, or do they have to be within a city department?
Commissioner Bush, I think I understand your question. The work that we would be funding with the Office of Contract Administration would be to help us establish contracts to secure outside work. There's sort of an initial stage where we are establishing an arrangement, or an MOU as we call it, a memorandum of understanding, with, say, the Contract Administration Office in the city to use their expertise to help us develop a contract that can be then securing outside external services. Does that answer your question?
It starts us down the road. So once we are on that road, would the contracts that we would contract out for include things like review of whether or not we want to add new categories to some of our disclosures, or whether we want to calculate the value of adding a fee to every contract for monitoring and oversight of the contracts?
I don't think so. I think the answer is those would be to provide direct services to perform, for example, contract, or to perform via contract an audit, or to provide a technology service. So we are not confident at this point. We are not asking for outside contracts to do that work, which I think is in-house programmatic work, as I understand you to be describing it.
But because where I'm going eventually is for us to have a discussion of adding a fee onto contractors to oversee and monitor their compliance with our laws affecting contractors. For example, the law that says that contractors may not make contributions to candidates who are going to decide on their contracts. And we know that they do make those contributions, or they provide a gift of travel or some other gift, all of which are prohibited by our laws, and which the contractors all sign that they understand that those are prohibited. But nevertheless, we have too many examples where those violations take place, and then the contractor claims that they didn't know that they existed, even though it's in the contract. So I'm looking down the road and saying, shouldn't we put into our own contract oversight a requirement that there be a fee attached to every contract to oversee the monitoring? In the same way, I'm not sure where this would fall, but it seems to me in terms of Form 700 filings and statements of incompatible activities, that we should put in a requirement that filers have to certify that they have read the city attorney's guide to good government, which lays out what the requirements are for commissioners and other city employees, and that they have read and signed a statement saying they have read the statement of incompatible activities. We do not do that now, but I would like to see us add that to the requirements that we make. And so that might require additional staff time. I don't know how you see that.
Again, I think as I understand your point, those would be that's a discussion about policies or enactments of requirements as part of policy discussion. I don't see those immediately having a budgetary element to them. It sounds like it would be a discussion about whether and how the commission wants to impose that in its laws going forward. But I don't see a connection in terms of, or an impact at this point in terms of budget.
Is that something that's going to be subject to a meet and confer?
I'm not sure unless I know the specific proposals, but it seems that enacting something like that could have some requirements that we'd have to take a look at, other than just adding it in a budget.
The only thing I'm talking about is a simple signed statement that, yes, I've read the city attorney's guide to good government, and I confirm that I have read it. Not a whole lot involved there. Same thing for statements of incompatible activities.
I think I understand your point. And those, again, I think are discussions that are, as we've been seeing it under the prior item, issues to be discussed in a policy way, in a policy context. Those do not seem to me to be issues that raise a budgetary impact at this point.
In that regard, one of the things that you put on there was a repositioned staff who would provide some support to the commission. And I would point out that your list of charter activities did not include a charter requirement that we have a commission secretary, which is found in section 4.1029 of the charter, that's the job of the commission to, quote, appoint an executive secretary to manage the affairs and operations of the board or commission. That's not optional. That's in the charter. So I would like to see a new proposal that incorporates that that's a funded position hired by the commission and reports to the commission. I would welcome any of my colleagues' comments on that. There's also section 16.120 of a customer service plan, that each department of the city and county shall adopt an annual customer service plan in a format to be determined by the Board of Supervisors, and that they should file its customer service plan with the board, but no later than February 1st, along with a report on how the department met the previous year's plan, if any. So that seems to me directly related to the work of the commission. It's directly related to the outreach that I think is a requirement for the commission. So I would like that spelled out in our plan. What else? Those are the highlights of what I have on my list that I'd like to have a discussion now as we discuss the budget. Thank you.
Commissioner Chu, your hand's up.
Yes, thank you, Chair Lee. It seems like the charter requires the commission or every commission to have a commission secretary. And given our discussions to date, and also just what we've heard from public comment is like they want more information and they want more outreach and messages from communications, from the Ethics Commission, and that commission secretary could very well fill that role in terms of being a central point and repository for that information and point of contact to disseminate out and be a liaison between the commission staff, and the public. And so would be very supportive of having that position be funded. It's very timely that we are discussing the budget right now and that we have a $100 million city surplus. And it is, if it is in fact mandated by the charter, I think that it's a pretty straightforward ask of the mayor. Thank you.
Okay. No more questions. I have a quick question for the director. Last year, with all that's happening, the city has asked the departments to submit a mandatory reduced budget. We didn't, and instead, we're very happy that we had a budget increase to support. It's still a bare bones budget, but nevertheless, it was an increase. So for Director Pelham, for this year, since there's no request for any specific reduction, and it seems like in addition to the recommendations from my fellow commissioners, we definitely would want to expand a couple of the divisions, the policy divisions, the public engagement divisions, because of the additional work that we are now entrusted to do. So is there a reason why you didn't put together a larger budget to reflect our increasing needs?
Yes, I think partly it is to recognize that we are still in the hiring process and for 5+ staff members. So in some ways, there's a balancing act that at least our initial thinking has weighed considerably, which is, do we have the resources to onboard, train, and actually get the people in chairs in order to do the work, and how soon we can do that. So making sure that we're actually developing the work at the pace that that we expect to and hope to when we have new positions. There has been a lag in that. And that's something that you've heard from us for several years. So I think we had 8 new positions in last year's budget. We're still working to fill 5. I think we were looking to see how we could deploy our resources now by asking with the positions that I identified in our slides. If the commission, believes that it's an opportunity to expand in further ways that we haven't, we're certainly open to hearing what those additional needs would be, or to hear the commission's feedback in what we bring back to you at the February 11th meeting. For example, if the commission, is of the view that it's essential to have a commission secretary, it'd be helpful feedback now or between now and then, what specific functions or roles the commission would hope to see accomplished through that position. so that we can begin to put together job descriptions and so forth, if that's what the commission, feels is essential at this point. So happy to hear any and all feedback about opportunities that might exist if we haven't fully put them out there yet.
I would definitely want to entertain the idea of having a commission secretary, because right now the executive staff has been doing double duties. And I think I would rather see the executive team doing the critical work that the commission needs. So definitely an additional staff for to help the administrative side. And I would explore a couple more, we can dream, right? Last year you dreamt big, and we had a 1/3 budget increase. And I would like to see a couple more new staff to support the existing team in the policy, legislative analysis area. Right now they're at 6-9% of your budget. And also to expand the public engagement team. We've heard there are a lot of folks out there. There will be a lot more folks who will be involved with the election arena. And in addition to the changing population, that we really need to get information out to really engage with them. So I would like to see another budget to reflect what we think the commission needs, not wants, but we need to have these personnel to carry out the critical work that we need to do moving forward. So maybe for the next budget proposal, you can present that for our consideration. Commissioner Bush.
Thank you, Chair Lee. Just, I want to associate myself with your comments about the budget, including more public outreach. And in that regard, I urge my fellow commissioners to take a look at the web page on our ethics page on behested payments and see if you can figure out who are the top 5 donors and who are the top 5 recipients and what was it for. Because while I'm not the most expert in the world, I'm expert enough to be able to look at that and see that it doesn't tell me what I need to know. In fact, it starts off by citing what the codes are. And so you're lost from the get-go, taking a look at it. So when you talk about the budget and you talk about more public engagement, I think we have to include as part of our transparency responsibilities, the ability to access information that we already are posting, but posting in formats that are not easily accessible to the public. And in some cases, for example, on the lobbyist, there is a line on each lobbyist report that says the outcome sought, and that's often left blank. Yet that is, of course, the most important reason why people hire a lobbyist. And so I think that any audit and any review should include something about what the outcome sought is, and make sure that all of those blanks are filled in. So I think that's all part of the public outreach that we're talking about, giving the public what the public expects to get, but isn't getting now.
With no other discussions, we will not be taking any votes on the budget this time, and we will await for
excuse me. I believe Deputy City Attorney Shen has his hand up.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, with your leave, Chair Lee, I apologize to jump in at the very last second, but since there was a couple of references to the general charter requirement regarding commission secretaries, I did want to briefly speak to that.
Please do.
Yeah, thank you. I will be very brief. So I will certainly defer to Director Pelham and her staff whether she thinks it would be beneficial to free them up to have an executive secretary for the commission to allow them to take on more substantive matters. But in terms of the expectations for a commission secretary, I did just want to share with the commission my experiences in working with such folks across the city. It may be a little bit much to expect that such a commission secretary or executive secretary would be able to interface with the public on substantive policy matters or proposals. The classifications that are common to those positions may not have quite those expectations that a commission secretary will be able to engage in sort of policy debates or policy back and forth. And so that's something the commission should also bear in mind. Thank you.
But can the commission secretary work on other administrative issues?
And I would just say I defer completely to Director Pelham and staff whether she thinks that would be a sort of net gain or efficiency gain for her and her colleagues. To date, the Ethics Commission has never had a commission secretary, in part because staff has been able to fill in here and there. And the Ethics Commission, you know, with this month being an exception, of course, generally only meets once a month. So 11 or 12 times a year. So that the Ethics Commission does meet much less regularly than some other commissions, like the one that you served on, the Police Commission, for example, which meets almost every week. So that's also something to bear in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bush?
Just to add a thought to what it is that Deputy City Attorney Shen is saying. Our obligation is beyond just the meetings once a month. His obligation goes throughout the month with the public reaching out to us and seeking more information. I think that if we took a look at some of the other commission secretaries do, or if you take a look in the charter language and the language in the Good Government Guide about what some of the things are that a commission secretary does, you'll see that it is an important position. And while they do not interface in drafting policy, they certainly interface in conveying to the commission questions about our policy and how it's being interpreted and what it means for the public. So it's just much more robust. And as things stand now, while the commission is served by the staff, by the executive director's staff providing something, if you take a look at the minutes that we get, they never include anything about what the commission has requested in future meetings. Just look at the bottom that says how the meeting ends, and that's where we each say things that we'd like to see show in future meetings, and there's never anything there. My experience in the past has been when debates came up and you needed to be able to say, well, we took this matter up on such and such a date and this is what we did. And then you go back and you find there are no minutes to provide any of that. You can go back online and actually listen to a commission meeting, and that way you can come to some conclusions. But in general, if you're looking for a hard copy of something that the commission has put together, it's just left blank. And I think that a commission secretary would allow us to have a more robust and fuller set of records for that purpose. So that's why I bring it up.
And certainly, I don't mean to butt in excessively in a budget discussion. I don't want to step in too much on this ground. I would just say generally, if the commission does have a desire or expectation for a person, whatever that person's title is, to do more substantive outreach or more comprehensive records of past meetings and such, I think the commission should just be careful that what it wants is something that would actually fit the job description for a commission secretary and the civil service classification. the commission actually may want something else that doesn't quite fit that position. That's my only point. Thank you.
So maybe perhaps the Director Pelham, for next month's meeting, you can give us a some information on other departments, other commissions with similar budget, staff, meeting requirements, and what have you. Whether they have commission secretaries, and if so, what are their duties, so that at least we can have some reference as we continue to discuss this matter.
I'd be happy to provide that. Also, just as a point of clarification, if I might, the minutes do reflect on under the future items the notes that the commission has made during each meeting. So if there is a different way that perhaps the commission would like those to appear, we'd be happy to get that feedback and look at it differently. But just as a note of clarification, that information is provided in our minutes regularly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So with no other comments, let's close agenda item number 5. Let's go to agenda item number 6, which is additional opportunity for public comment and matters appearing and not appearing on the agenda pursuant to the Ethics Commission bylaws. Moderator?
Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you've just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item 6, additional opportunities for public comment on matters appearing or not appearing on the agenda pursuant to Ethics Commission bylaws, Article 7, Section 2. Excuse me. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You'll hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by.
Chair Lee, while we're waiting, I have to depart in 10 minutes. I just want to.
Okay. I'm sure we will be done with public comment soon.
Yes, there are no public comment. There's no callers in the queue. Chair Lee.
Thank you. Public comment is closed, and the last agenda item is adjournment. I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to adjourn this meeting in honor of Commissioner Bell. This is his last meeting with us, and during his tenure here, the commission, and for sure myself, has benefited immensely from his wisdom, his insight, his experience, his recommendations, and most importantly, his humanity. The city has benefited, the commission has benefited. I'm very sorry to see him leave us as a commissioner, but maybe we will continue to see him here. Before I ask my fellow commissioners if they have any final words, I'd like to give the floor to our most respected, well-regarded, honorable Commissioner Bell.
Thank you very much. I haven't served long. It's been a pleasure. I've learned a lot and try to bring whatever experience I have to the difficult work of this commission. And I support it entirely and wish you all the best as you continue to go into this really next phase of having more power, more influence, and that we are able to impact city employees and those that work with them more. And it's a great body. The competency is great, and I just wish you all the best. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Pelham, your hands up.
Thank you, Chair Lee. I just want, on behalf of all of the staff, to echo your comments and to give our deep thanks to Commissioner Bell. It has been a joy and a wonderful experience for us to have learned from your insights and your participation. So we wish you the best, but just wanted to be very clear about we're sorry to see you go, and we deeply, deeply appreciate the contribution you've made. It'll be lasting. Thank you.
Commissioner Chu and then Commissioner Finlaw.
Thank you, Chair Lee. I wanted to associate myself with your comments and Executive Director Pelham's comments, and just to say, Commissioner Bell, I wish I could have met you in person, but it has been such a pleasure and a privilege to serve with you. I learn from you every single meeting, and I wish you the very best. I wish you could stay, and I will miss you a lot. But thank you for your service. It's you've lifted us all up. Thank you.
Commissioner Finlaw.
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Bell, I hope it's not personal, you departing just as I'm getting here, but in these two meetings together.
Oh, take it very personally. No.
But I've watched a lot of prior meetings. So in addition to the two I did with you, I've seen you at a lot of meetings, and your common sense, your reasonableness, your warmth, I think is really going to be missed. So I wanted just to say thank you for everything you did. I'm sad I didn't get to do it with you for longer, but best wishes going forward.
Thank you all very much.
Commissioner Bush.
I'd like to associate myself with the comments of all of my colleagues. I'm reminded of the scripture that says, "Go and sin no more." And I think that that's what he's going to end up doing, is being careful not to sin, since he's helped us write the laws about where the line is. You know, one of the things that's been marked by Commissioner Bell is a note of class and decency in everything that he's approached this with. And that has been most welcome in an area that is often cheated with people's strong emotion. You're leaving just at a time when the public is beginning to pay attention to the work that you've been doing and which you are continuing to do. I think that's because more of the commission is aware, more of the public is aware of how the commission's policies and practices impact them. I'm hopeful that that's going to expand beyond those people who feel that they have something at stake in terms of how policies are written, but that all of us have something at stake. Because to me, the work of the commission in terms of empowering people is that we clear away the clutter that fills up so much of people's lives, so that people's voices are heard, and that this is the most democratic and the small d of all the things that the city does. And you have materially contributed to that and been a leader in that. So thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. And as I believe, as Chair Lee has talked about demographic change in San Francisco, and I believe as we see our country moving and relating to this demographic change that's happening around the country, good government at the local level is where I believe everything is. Very few people can access senators, their Congress people, and certainly the administration on a national level. But good government where we live and work and make decisions is important, and you guys are the guardians of that. And so I will just leave by saying I appreciate the comments about decency and humanity is how I live my life and the way that we should, a way of being with each other. And also leave the commission with this thought that we never want to create anything that makes us passive. Let's continue to be active in this ongoing engagement for good government and participation in democracy. So thank you much, and I'm sorry I'm leaving, but they're about to take away my Wi-Fi and the moving truck. I don't know if you guys have been hearing it, but the movers are barreling through and getting ready to unseat me. So thank you all. And
good luck, Commissioner Bell.
You'll enjoy my replacement as well.
We will. And from a very grateful commission, thank you, and we wish you nothing but the best. This
Yes.
meeting is adjourned in your honor.
Thank you, and enjoy your retirement, Commissioner Bell.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye,
Take care.
everyone.
Commissioner
Bye-bye.
Bell.
Have a great weekend, everyone.